So you're looking to get into Flesh and Blood, and you're not entirely sure where to start. You hear a little bit about these Armory decks that are coming out and you can find at your local game store, but do you want to pick up the Boltyn Armory deck, a light warrior? Let's go ahead and dive into the cards inside of the deck and the cost of each card as of about a week after its release, talk a little bit about its strategy, and then also go into some upgrades that you might be able to see for a pretty insignificant amount of money to make sure that your deck is the most competitive version it can be at your armory. Welcome on in, Dragon Folk. It is such a pleasure to have you all here today. We are talking about the thing that I love the most, and that is some beginner product for Flesh and Blood. It's always been kind of a rough spot for a lot of people when it comes to Flesh and Blood is, how do I get into the game? How much money do I need to spend to get into the game? And I do truly believe that this is something that is going to help help really bridge that gap so people can get into the game. So what I wanted to talk about today is the second Armory deck to be released for Flesh and Blood, none other than the Boltyn Armory deck. Boltyn is a light warrior, the light talent essentially being a key here, and then warrior being the class of Boltyn. So you have talents and you have classes. With this talent, you utilize what all light heroes utilize, which is your soul. Essentially, you utilize cards to put cards from your hand underneath your hero, which is where the soul goes. And then you can utilize those cards in your soul later as resources to activate Boltyn's abilities. And let me tell you, there's a lot of wonderful chain links and power plays you can make when you just have enough souls. So I want to go ahead and just preface this beforehand, though, and say that I am not a Boltyn player, and I have not attempted to play Boltyn, but I know enough to be dangerous, and we're going to go over that today and just kind of talk about some of the stuff that comes with it, some of the new cards. We're going to talk about the pricing of the deck, and then we're going to go into some upgradable strategies that we've seen on the internet. So let's go ahead and dive right on in here. This is the Armory deck in its entirety here. The entire deck list can be found on FaBrary. If you go to the spoiler section down to the Armory deck Boltyn, or you can probably find it inside their deck index. You can find every card that is in the Boltyn deck right here. And what it does is shows you each individual card, how many copies there are. There are 3 copies of every single card that come in the deck, and that is just to keep things nice and simple, and they really add a lot of the power cards inside the deck and make it pretty balanced for what it's supposed to do. There are also 4 new pieces of equipment for Boltyn inside this deck. You have the Braces of Bellona's Grace, which when this defends, you can charge your hero's soul. And if it's a yellow card that you charge this way, create a courage token. Charging is the putting cards into your hero's soul concept, right? So when this defends, you may charge your hero's soul. So you block with this card, you may take a card from your hand, put it underneath your hero, and then if it is a yellow card, you get a courage token. The same deal goes for the Warpath of Wing's Grace, except you make a quicken token instead of a courage token. The Helm of Halo's Grace is also the same, except you draw a card instead of creating a token. And then your chess piece Solar Plexus, you can instantly destroy this to banish a card from your soul, and then yellow cards you control have 1 less resource when you look to play them. So it costs 1 less resource if they're a yellow card, but you have to banish a card from your soul to do this, and you have to be able to destroy this card, and it's only for 1 turn. This chess piece doesn't block, unlike the other 2 or 3 pieces of equipment here, but that's because it's mainly meant for a big power play that can be accessible in this deck. Now, looking over at Boltyn's ability, I'm going to explain a little bit about what Soul does for Boltyn and why it's important that you use these charge abilities. Because in most cases, you want to utilize your cards as best as possible and try to get your whole hand out of there. But losing a card to charge is really, really rough because now you have less cards to work with and it's nowhere near as powerful. But in Boltyn's case, you want cards inside your soul. And you do want to charge every now and again. Because Boltyn's first text says if you charge this turn, your attacks get +1 while defended by an attack action card. Now, it is very specific that it has to be an attack action card. This is the same kind of effect that you see on Centauri Saber, except you have to have charged this turn in order for that to happen. So make sure to always kind of start your chain links with a card that does charge, and then you can go ahead and move your game plan over from there. Boltyn's second text says in the attack reaction step, you can banish a card from your soul, and then target attack with power greater than its base gets go again. So any amount of your attacks, if it's got greater than its base, that's talking the +1 from the charge in his first part of the text. Or if you're playing an attack reaction to pump up the damage, that also gives you the ability to utilize this attack reaction on Boltyn. And more importantly, you even get to use it on Raiden Duskbane. This is the weapon for Boltyn in this deck. And as a once per turn action, you can pay 0 to attack with this. And if you charge this turn, it gains +3. Its initial base attack is 0, but it will gain +3 if you charged. Therefore, it is a target for Boltyn's second ability in the attack reaction step if you're trying to get a larger chain link out of it. Now, I do want to just let everybody know that charge is the keyword you are looking for here. You'll see that there's charge on Beaming Bravado, there's charge on Bolt of Courage, there is charge on Express Lightning, there is charge on Light the Way, but there is not charge on something like Snatch. So Snatch doesn't allow you to charge anything. This says if you charge this turn, Battlefield Blitz gets go again. And then, of course, you have other cards that just generally have this charge keyword. So charge is the keyword you are looking for. You want to make sure that you are getting as much charge ability. You don't want to charge twice in a turn. The goal is just to charge once, and then you don't have to charge for the rest of the turn. Obviously, you can if you want, if your goal is just to like pump up your soul, but you lose out on damage potential the more you charge in a turn, and charging just once turns on pretty much every single one of these cards. So starting out with something like Beaming Bravado, as an additional cost to play this, you may charge your hero's soul, and then if a yellow card was charged this way, it will get +1, which then at the same moment turns on Boltyn's ability to allow you to banish a card from soul to give it go again, and then you get to move into your next abilities. I'm not going to go over every single in-depth card here. There are plenty of other people who have played Boltyn who have better lines for this, but I do want to go over one of the cards that is new inside the set, which is Saving Grace. Saving Grace, along with the Armor, are brand new cards for Boltyn, and this says as an additional cost to play this, you may charge your hero's soul. It is a defense reaction, pay 0 for 3, and if you charge this turn, target attack gets -2. So the cool thing is that if you decide to block with one of these new pieces of equipment, and then in the defense reaction step on maybe their next attack, you block with Saving Grace. If you've already charged off of one of those pieces of equipment, this already has the ability to put -2 onto a target attack. So that can turn a 6 into a 4, that can turn a 5 into a completely full blocked thing here. So you want to make sure to utilize this as best as possible, and it also allows you to charge on your opponent's turn, which helps kind of better your own game plan if you're trying to go a bit more on the defensive. Some more cards that are kind of important here are Lumina, Ascension, and V of the Vanguard. These are some Boltyn specializations that are going to allow you to get more damage potential and even healing in the sense of Lumina Ascension to be able to push more of that damage through. Again, if any of your cards have even if it's a +1 to their attack, you have the ability to give them go again. So you want to make sure you're able to do that. The same can go for things like Snatch, right? It does not specifically say warrior cards or light cards that have power greater can get go again. So if you attack with a Snatch and you have cards inside your banish zone, and Snatch somehow has +1 based on, if somebody blocked with an attack action. So if this comes in for 5, you can then banish a card from Soul and then hit with Snatch. You get to have it get go again, so on and so forth. So that's kind of a general idea, right? Again, the whole purpose is to charge your Soul at least once per turn and then utilize your Soul to give you a wider chain link as you go throughout the game. But something I wanted to talk about is the price of the deck. So you can go ahead and you can buy this deck at retail for $40. That's right around where every one of the Armory decks end up going for. And what I wanted to show is that if you go to tcgplayer.com, you do have listings for the Armory deck for Boltyn for $35. I don't suggest buying them at this price. If you can, I go support your LGS, right? Supporting your LGS is what you want to do. They'll have it for right around this price anyway, so saving $5 isn't the end of the world. But something that is not shown here is you'll see up here it says that this deck costs $10 on TCG Player. And if you look at the pricing, you'll see that there are some cards that do not have prices up on February yet. That is because these cards are brand new and have not quite yet been updated because there's probably not a whole lot of sales data on it. But if we go ahead and we look back at this TCG Player listing, we'll see that the Helm of Halo's Grace, the Warpath of Winged's Grace, Saving Grace, Bracers of Bellona's Grace, and Solar Plexus are all the most expensive cards. All the new cards in this set are the most expensive of the set. And even when you have Helm of Halo's Grace at about, let's just say 17, 34 after Warpath of Winged Grace, Saving Grace has 3 copies in the deck, and if they're about $8 a piece, 8, 16, 24. So 24 plus 34 is 58. You got another $8 here, which is about 64. And then right around 7 after tax, you've got another almost, it's like $60. So you're spending $40 on a product and you're getting $60 worth of value. Now, of course, buying these cards individually is silly. I do suggest that unless you already have every single card in the set besides these 5, I still suggest just buying the Boltyn deck, because that way you can still get them all for incredibly cheap and you can pick them all up all at once. You're guaranteed to have them. I think some of these are foil, if I recall correctly. I'm not sure if the new armor is foil or anything, or I know in the KO Armory deck, the new attack actions that were in the deck, one of them was foil and the other 2 were non-foil. So I'm not sure if that's the case with Saving Grace, but that is an option for you to check out. So you're getting a pretty decent value for getting all this stuff out of the Boltyn Armory deck. And more importantly, you have a general strategy, which is just, how do I charge? Make sure to charge every single turn. Make sure to just keep plowing through stuff. If you're going to charge anything, try charging these bannerets, because you do get a bonus if they are charged. Not only are they yellow, but they also give you a bonus when they are charged. So that's what you're going to look for. Now let's quickly talk about upgrades. There is a fantastic video that came out over on Cup of TCG's channel. I do suggest checking them out if you have not already. There is this Boltyn Armory deck upgrade video where they kind of go over 3 different ways to upgrade your deck in different tiers. And we're going to go over those just a little bit. Obviously, I suggest going to watch their video about it, because the Boltyn player in the video, I am completely forgetting their name. The Boltyn player in the video has been playing Boltyn for a very, very long time and has even taken Boltyn to some top tables of events. So if you are looking for some great information on why these cards are good choices for Boltyn, I do suggest going to go and check that out. But we're going to go over some big, upgrades here that you can choose for the deck itself. So when you take a look at the Boltyn deck, you're seeing that there are no legendaries, there's no additional majestics, or so on and so forth. So you're really going to try and get as much value as you can out of what you initially have. So let's say you have you spent $40. If you could spend 50, maybe 60 more dollars, you can end up getting a decent upgrade to at least make sure that you're doing crazy good at your armory. And the upgrades for this are actually going to be, let me see, where are they here? Soulbound Resolve. Soulbound Resolve is a legendary card. This is a legendary chess piece that will be replacing your solar plexus. And this says that when this defends, you may charge your hero's soul, much like your other pieces of armor, right? When this defends, you may charge your hero's soul. The only difference is this has temper instead of blade break, which means that you technically get to block again afterwards unless your opponent has done something to its defense value. Then the first time you would be dealt damage each turn. If you've charged this turn, prevent one of that damage. So this allows you to prevent even more damage on the defensive. So for instance, if you have charged this turn, then what you can do is you can prevent one of the damage from, you can utilize this opportunity to block out breakpoints. So Snatch, for instance, is a 4 when it's red. And so if you block 3, but you charged also on your turn, you can then prevent 1 of that damage. This also can be utilized with things like CNC. CNC comes in for 6 damage. 6 damage, pretty straightforward and simple. And it's got a very, very destructive effect where defense reactions cannot be used in conjunction with it. And that is going to end up costing you a few cards. But in a situation like this, what you can do is you can always go ahead and block with one of these, charge a card into your hero's soul, and then block with 1 card from hand. That then allows for Soulbound Resolve to trigger, meaning that if it's the first time you would be dealt damage this turn, you will then prevent 1 of that damage if you charged. Since you charged with your feet, you then get to go ahead and utilize an additional 1 point, which will block out Command and Conquer fully. That is kind of a pretty big deal when it comes down to it. Unfortunately, while the numbers look incredibly good for something like Saving Grace and utilizing that with Command and Conquer, you're not going to be able to do so. But things like Amnesia and Humble and Weakest Link, all these 6 power attacks, as long as a defense reaction can be played in reaction to the attack, then Saving Grace will be able to technically block out 6 if you are having Soulbound Resolve in your chest slot. So Soulbound Resolve, pretty cheap card to pick up if you are looking for a nice legendary. Soulbound Resolve is a whopping $17 right now, which is very, very cheap for a legendary. Most legendaries tend to rack somewhere around 30 plus, unless you're looking at like Outsiders. Sometimes that stuff's a little different, but those are great places to start. So $17 will certainly get you a pretty good chess piece there for that. Then we're going to look at a couple other changes here. Mainly, we're going to see about Illuminate. Illuminate is a card that I wanted to talk about because, again, you want to make sure that you are charging your hero's soul. When you are charging your hero's soul, activates your abilities throughout the entirety of your deck, pretty much. Illuminate is a 0 for 4, which is super great and can be utilized to, give it go again with Boltyn's ability and so on and so forth. But if you haven't charged, then this will not be able to get any additional power if it's blocked by an attack action card. So what Illuminate does is it does not charge anything into your soul. What it says is that if it hits, you put it into your hero's soul. This is a nice little chain ender, and it does get a card into your hero's soul, but this does not count as charging. So I want that to be explicitly clear for people who are trying to learn a little bit more about the hero. Putting a card into your soul does not mean you are charging, but when you charge, it's got to say on the card that as an additional cost, you may charge, and then you can go on from there. So super easy stuff there. Illuminate's a great little turn ender. If you're able to come in with like a Take Flight and then a Raiden and then an Illuminate, that's a lot of damage coming through. 0 for 4 on hit, put into soul. The more cards you have in soul, the better off you are as a Boltyn player. So that is a great place to be, is a 0 for 4 to start that off. Then you go ahead and you check out these new bannerets. So the bannerets that we had originally in the deck were Banneret of Resilience and Banneret of Vigor. This one allowed you to get a resource if this was charged, and Resilience allow you to get a +1 to your defensive stuff if you charged. Instead, we replaced them with Banneret of Courage, which says when this is charged into your hero's soul, create a Courage token. And then when Banneret of Gallantry is charged into your hero's soul, create a Quicken token. Quicken tokens are utilized for the Go Again ability, so that way you don't have to spend a card on in Boltyn's soul to give an attack Go Again. And Courage is a great way for you to give an attack additional power without needing to charge. So in this situation, again, Boltyn's second ability doesn't care about whether or not you charged, just his first ability. So if you do have a Courage token out on the board and your first attack comes in and it was a 4 power attack, now it comes in for 5, you can still use Boltyn's ability as the attack reaction to banish a card from your soul and then give it Go Again. So Courage and Quicken tokens are probably the best thing you could possibly get out of this, and it's a really, really great start. Another thing to remove is possibly the Sync Belows. Sync Belows you very well could keep if you're trying to look for it's a more Guardian focused matchup, but I think Saving Grace is still your best defense reaction in the deck. You then also change in some stuff for Beacon of Victory. This is a majestic for this deck, Light Warrior attack reaction for 0. There's an additional cost to pay Beacon of Victory. Banish X cards from your hero's soul, and X cannot be 0. Target attack gains +X. So it's specifically one attack gets +X. And then if you've charged this turn, you can search your deck for an action card with cost X or less, reveal it, then put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. The card you are often looking for when you are playing Beacon of Victory is Lumina Ascension. So you can always go ahead and play Beacon of Victory. You can then banish 1 card, or however many you need to get over your opponent. You can banish 1 card from Soul, give your card target attack +1, and then give it Go Again with Boltyn's ability. And then you can go ahead and search for a Lumina Ascension. You can then play Lumina Ascension, but of course you'd have to break the chain in this specific scenario, so you might not get as much value out of it as possible. There's the card that we'll look at later that makes Lumina Ascension way, way better, but this is the card you're going to be looking for with Beacon of Victory. So great way to tutor out a card. You definitely want to be able to go ahead and do that, especially when you're trying to get some good Lumina Ascension value. Then we're also going to be removing the Resounding Courage, and we are going to be putting in Celestial Cataclysm. So Celestial Cataclysm is a 0 cost, 7 power attack. This is an additional cost to play Celestial Cataclysm. You banish 3 cards from your hero's soul, and then it has Go Again. So a 0 for 7, Go Again. Block 3, yellow card. That, as long as you have 3 cards in your soul, which is very easy to do when your armor blocks and then you can charge, that means you can start your turn off with a 0 for 7, Go Again, and then come in with another attack, charging, giving it Go Again, and then coming in with a Raiden. You're dealing at least somewhere between 15 to 20 some plus damage in a turn with something like Celestial Cataclysm. And if you get incredibly lucky and you have 9 cards in your soul and 3 Celestial Cataclysms in hand, you can play all 3 of them, banishing 9 cards from your soul, and try to deal 21 damage to your opponent. It's a very powerful endgame move if you're trying to do that, but not exactly the best play. So that's some changes here. Kind of going over some things, making sure that everything else is there. I believe Engulfing Light. Engulfing Light is in the deck. And this is a pretty easy upgrade for what it's worth. If you're trying to get into this version, Banneret of Gallantries are about $8. Banneret of Courages are about $8. And then Celestial Cataclysms are about $7. And then you have a Soulbound Resolve. So overall, 25, 50, 70-ish, and then like 90. So about 90 additional dollars will get you this kind of stuff. Now, obviously, Boltyn is not doing super great into the meta right now. So these cards might see a drop in price depending on how many people are looking to upgrade their Boltyn decks. But with it being a new deck out here on the market, especially one that is more accessible to new players and is easily upgradable, these cards are probably going to be swept off the market pretty quick. So I do suggest that if you can pick them up for a cheap price, definitely do so. But even at about $8, $7, even if you're only able to get a couple, it's a great start. But if you're looking for anything to start off, I definitely suggest getting the Soulbound Resolve. The Beacon of Victories are also only $1.50, so try getting those as well. And that's pretty much the way I would say to start, right? I had these other 2 up here for people to look at. I'm not going to go too in-depth into those. I say again, if you want to go ahead and watch that video from Cup of TCG, I do suggest going over that and, seeing what kind of, if you're looking to put more money into a Boltyn deck, those are going to be deck lists for you to check out. But I do think that even starting at this level with just a Soulbound Resolve and the small little upgrades that you have here, this is a very, very consistent deck that you can bring to your locals and play. And who knows, right? You might have a pretty decent shot into winning depending on your matchups. But if it turns out that's not the case and you're not exactly winning every single game at your locals, don't worry about it. It's all about practice. Learning is more important than spending. That's my always thing. It's my big thing, is learning is always more important than spending. So the more you learn your lines, the more you see where you can upgrade things. And then, of course, you can look at those other deck lists and go, yeah, I've got some extra money. I can put some more cards here, or maybe over here. And then by that time, you'll have a pretty decent Boltyn deck to start off with. And as the game continues to grow, so too will Boltyn's card pool. So make sure to go ahead and keep up with the Light Warrior cards that keep coming out in sets. If they happen to have one for an expansion slot, that is probably where you're going to want to look for those things. So I hope this was helpful. I know it's a little long, running about 30 minutes, but I didn't want to dive super deep into it. Just kind of wanted to give new players an example of what exactly this deck is, how much it costs, how much value you're actually getting from buying the product at $40, which is a positive, as you can see. I don't suggest trying to flip these because, for one, that's kind of just a garbage thing to do. But if you're looking for some quick cash and you need to sell something, the pieces of armor do sell. Who knows? If that's something you're looking to do, by all means. But I suggest making sure that if you're looking to get into Flesh and Blood, get one of these decks, upgrade it. Maybe you're just looking to try out Boltyn. Maybe you're a veteran. You haven't tried out Boltyn before, like me. Buy the deck, play it against the KO Armory deck, play it against the future Armory decks that are coming out. Just make sure to have fun, because that's what we all want at the end of the day, right? We want to play a TCG that we enjoy and we have fun in. And for $40 starting out and another $50, $60, $70 to upgrade it to a pretty nice level, I'd say that's a win. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you all. We'll be going over the Azalea Armory deck next when we learn a little bit more about the prices and once it finally releases. But we'll go over that deck and talk about that. It's going to be the third Armory deck to ever exist and be released. So I'm very curious to see what happens with that and how the market handles it. So make sure to hit that like button down below and also subscribe as well if you have not already, for you to make sure that you're here for the Azalea Armory deck breakdown. And then if you want to, you can even become a channel member. Channel members get access to our podcast, The Common Language, earlier than everybody else does. So if you want to go ahead and get some more information on the general overall scope of Flesh and Blood, I definitely suggest checking out The Common Language. We do have some episodes out for people to watch already. So if that's something that fits your fancy, awesome. If not, tell me what you don't like about it, because I can easily change some things. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate everything that you do, and I hope you continue having fun in the Flesh and Blood. And make sure to go pick up your copy of the Boltyn Armory deck at your LGS today. I'll see you all in our next video. Nerd out.